Hello, travel friends. In this episode, we are going to talk about dining in Paris, and we're going to give you guys 10 tips to do it well.
Tip number 1, meals are long. Average meal, 1.5 to 2.5 hours. It is an experience. It's an experience that you should enjoy. You can people watch. Most restaurants have Wi-Fi, so it's also a good time to discuss what you've done and plan your next adventure.
Especially if you're coming from like America, you should think about it as almost a cultural experience, right? Over here, we have a lot of fast food. We're chowing down our food. Over there, they take it nice and slow. The waiter is not going to pressure you to leave, even if you're there for an hour or two, right? So you can sit there after your meal or after your dessert and sip on your wine for 30 minutes. Yeah. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. You do not get pressured. It's really a cultural thing over there to enjoy your meal, enjoy your food. So yeah, that's our first tip. Meals are long. To add on, you should plan that in your day. When you're planning your trip and you're planning your itinerary, you should plan a good amount of time for your meals.
The next tip is good people watching places are worth it. You'll see in Paris, people will sit outside of the restaurant with their espresso, with their wine, and they're just watching people.
We're talking about really cute streets, right? Really cute corners where you kind of like see Parisian life, or you can watch Parisian life unfold in front of you as you're drinking your coffee or your wine or water.
You're not going to pay a crazy amount more. It's maybe a few euros more, but it's definitely worth the experience because if you're going to be sitting there for that long, you might as well have some really good people watching and entertainment to see.
Right. A lot of other countries, can really charge you a heavy premium for good people watching. You're paying for the location. In Paris, I feel like you really don't get that premium charge that you could see or experience in other countries. You'll probably see that maybe they're like 1 or 2 euros more than your other restaurants, but that 1 or 2 euro extra is definitely worth just being able to sit outside and watch Paris go by. It's great. Our third tip is get your coffee and pastries to go.
When you order coffee or pastries and you want to dine in or sit in just for even half an hour, you are going to pay more. Yeah, it's a few cents, maybe 10 or 15 cents. Nothing crazy, but it is something to be aware of. If you are kind of going to be on the move, definitely grab your coffee and your croissant or pain au chocolat and walk around Paris, which also leads us to the next kind of tip within this of getting your coffee to go. Coffee is not good there. So.
Right. And I don't even think that this is widely refuted.
No,
right? Like I don't think it's like when we say it, people are like, Parisians are super offended or the French are super offended. Just like how Italians are known for having really, really good coffee, I think the French are known, and they're probably okay with having pretty bad coffee. And by bad, it's probably like a little bit harsher than what you would consider, or what most people would consider good coffee. Our tip in regarding coffee is actually like where you get your coffee actually matters quite a bit in Paris. You want to go to a roastery or something, like a place that really specializes in coffee, because a lot of the places don't specialize in coffee. So if you're looking for a true Parisian coffee experience and with harsh coffee, yeah.
You can go anywhere.
You can go anywhere.
But there are a lot of good, for lack of a better term, hipster roasteries, drip coffee places that are really popping up. We were in Montmartre, and there were a ton that we were able to explore. So just something to be aware of. The French are very good at a lot of things, but we found one thing they're not, and that is coffee.
Yep. So our next tip is that lunch is generally much more affordable than dinner. Usually you'll find like prefix menus. You can get like an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert for a fixed price. And that price is usually, I would say, like 5 to 10 euros off the total price if you were going to get each piece separately. I think this also adds to why the meals are so long, right? It's because, during lunch and also during dinner, you can have an appetizer, an entree, a dessert. Maybe there's like another extra plate in there if you want to eat it. If you're planning like a picnic, maybe you want to plan that picnic towards the evening or dinner time and then go out to eat for lunch that day.
So when dining in restaurants, tap water there is actually free by law. So order it. It's cold. It comes in bottles that they just refill, and it's safe to drink.
Right.
It's another way just to save a few euros every time you go out to eat, because bottled water can actually be 5 or more euro. So while we're on the topic of drinks, house wine is very good. So a lot of restaurants will have house wines. Not all of them, but some will have house wines. They usually have a white, a red, and a rosé.
Yeah.
Typically, they are French wines, which is great. It's a very easy way to try a good local wine. They usually offer them in multiple sizes. So it's like a glass and a half, a carafe, a liter.
The wine over there is really good. And I think that if you go to a place that has house wine, you'll find that a lot of the locals are drinking the house wine, right? Like, yeah, it's good.
Jimmy's going to take the next tip.
And the next tip is bistros are awesome. That's all I got to really say. So bistros are sort of, it's like low key. They serve really, really homey, traditional foods.
It just feels like a very local neighborhood place to dine.
There's probably like 3 reasons why I think bistros are really awesome. And those are the places where I think most tourists should probably aim to eat at. One is that their hours are really flexible. A lot of French restaurants, especially like the higher end ones, will be closed from like 3 to 6, between the hours of 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. So there's this like huge gap where, if you're a tourist and you're walking around and traveling and doing all your sightseeing, sometimes that's really inconvenient. That the places you want to eat at are closed between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. But most bistros are open at that time, and you can go there. So that's one. The second reason is that there's usually a lot of locals at these bistros, and like every single one that we went to, like most people around us were locals, right? And these bistros, they're not making like, I would say for the most part, they're not making like headline news. They're not these like Michelin star restaurants, right? They're just serving authentic, homey,
genuine,
food.
good
Right.
food.
It's just quintessential French food. Yeah, it's like grandma's cooking, mom's cooking. It's really down to earth, and it's a good French experience. And then the third thing is that like they're super affordable.
Yeah.
These bistros are super affordable compared to some of these higher end restaurants that you can find bistros.
All right, on the bistro affordability, do just be aware if the prices look too good to be true, you should probably skip that one.
We're not talking about bistros. We're just talking about restaurants and cafes and just like eateries and stuff in general. If you look at their menu and like the prices are just ridiculously low,
go somewhere else.
Right. They're usually low for a reason. In our experience, they're just not. There's no value there. You're saving a few dollars, but you're missing the magic, what makes French cuisine magical, what makes it so famous, right? You're usually missing that with some of these places that are super, super cheap.
Mm-hmm. Or if it's empty. Yeah, red flag. So Jimmy kind of hit on our 8th tip, but be aware of restaurant hours. There is a gap in the afternoon, and it's always when everybody wants to eat. because you went on some museum, some walking tour, and you lost track of time. So again, a lot of the restaurants close from 3 to 6 or 7 p.m. I have gotten caught in this many times in Europe.
Same.
I know my mom always gets caught in it too because she's always so disappointed. She's so hungry. So that's the benefit of going to those bistros, or just be very aware that you need to hit a restaurant around that 1:30 at the latest in order to get your food before you hit the food desert time.
Also, you should be aware that there are definitely days in the week where a lot of restaurants are closed, and also a lot of shops are closed. And these days are usually like Sunday, Monday. But if there are some places that you definitely want to hit up and definitely want to eat at during your trip to Paris, definitely look up their hours, because they're they're just closed on days, and sometimes it's like that day where you want to visit them.
So another dining tip is English is widely spoken. Most restaurants post their menus outside. They also have not only a French menu, they do have an English menu. Sometimes they'll bring it on a board. So everything is translated. It makes everything a lot easier. The wait staff, they typically speak English as well.
Or at least they speak enough English for you to sort of gesture your way through things. We also found that Google Translate helps a ton. I would say, like, when we're talking about bistros, the more the restaurant is geared towards locals, you may find that there's not an English menu. Maybe there's less English availability there. But Google Translate on your app is amazing. Of course, knowing a few French words helps a lot. Bonjour, bonsoir. That's just being polite and respectable, and that's it.
All right. Our 10th tip is credit cards. Credit cards are very easy to use. They are widely accepted. So don't be afraid to use a credit card. Just ensure that you have a credit card that works and doesn't have foreign transaction fees. So do a little research on your end, but do feel comfortable paying mostly via credit card.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think we've been at a place in Paris that didn't accept credit cards.
That is true.
I feel like there's actually, in the U.S., I've encountered more cash-only establishments.
That is so true.
Right? Yeah,
I didn't think about that.
Than in Europe. So credit cards widely accepted. Do you have another tip?
Last but not least, I do have a bonus tip, and that is something that when it comes to these restaurants, right, Jimmy has mentioned there's great bistros, there are Michelin star restaurants, there's just amazing restaurants everywhere. If you've done the research and there are a few restaurants you do want to be sure to hit in your 3, 4, 5, 2 weeks of time in Paris, make a reservation. It is very much needed. If you don't have like a foreign phone, sometimes they only take it via phone. Pop into that restaurant and ask them if they have any availability. And we found that was the best way because we tried to book some online. And it just fell through because they would try to call the phone number and the phone number wouldn't go through. So just ensure to make it a smooth dining experience and that you don't feel like you missed out. Yeah. Make those reservations and plan a little ahead. It goes a long way.
It's especially important in Paris because when you go back to how long it takes for meals, right? Most places will open at 6 or 7 or something, and they only have basically 2 or 3 time slots, right? Because the first set of people come in at 6 or 7. And then they take 2 hours for dinner, right? So that brings them down to 9-ish, right? So then the next round of service is at 9, and that's it, right? That's it. And you're talking about most of the eateries are on the smaller side,
very small,
10 tables, just a few tables, right? So a few tables times only 2 services. You can imagine that Usually, space is limited.
Space is very limited. You will be 2 inches from the next table, so be aware of that when you're coming in and out. But
that's French
Paris.
living, right? That's
Yeah.
like Parisian life. That's part of the experience. It's part of the whole dining experience. It's part of what makes like Paris amazing and great.
Those are your 10 plus a bonus tips on dining in Paris. Be sure to like and subscribe, and happy eats.
All right. Till next time. Bye.